Today, inshallah, in this brief reminder, I want to go through a very important characteristic that one should develop. We all should develop. In fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to this as one of the characteristics of the believers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in the Quran, يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْأَنفَالِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the 9th juz, Surah Al-Anfal is mentioned. Allah says that they ask you about Anfal. What is Anfal? Anfal is the spoils of war. And then Allah says, قُلِ الْأَنفَالُ لِلَّهِ وَالرَّسُولِ فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَأَصْلِحُوا ذَاتَ بَيْنِكُمْ. That ask Allah, they ask you about Anfal. Tell them that the Anfal, the spoils of war, belong to Allah and His Prophet ﷺ. Meaning that however they decide to distribute it, then you should be pleased with that. And then Allah says, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ, that be cautious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَأَصْلِحُوا ذَاتَ بَيْنِكُمْ. The bickering that you have started amongst yourselves, reconcile those bickerings, put aside those bickerings and those arguments. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He goes into فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ أَصْلِحُوا ذَاتَ بَيْنِكُمْ وَأَطِيعُوا اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ إِن كُنتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. And then Allah says in the Quran after that there are some characteristics of believers. And Allah says, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ إِذَا ذُكِرَ اللَّهُ وَجِلَتْ قُلُوبُهُم. That when the ayat of Allah are recited, when they are reminded of the ayat of Allah, their hearts, they tremble. And then Allah says, وَإِذَا تُلِيَتْ عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتُهُ زَادَتْهُمْ إِيمَانًا. That when the ayat of the Quran are recited before them, their iman increases substantially. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the next thing, which is the point today of our Khatira, is وَعَلَىٰ رَبِّهِمْ يَتَوَكَّلُونَ. These are people who put their trust and their reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Tawakkul is something, brothers and sisters, that there are so many ways to understand tawakkul. Tawakkul, as first of all, let's break it down linguistically. The word tawakkul comes from the word wakala. Wakala means that in Arabic you call a wakil. You have a wakil. Wakil is the power of attorney. It also comes from the word wakala, meaning that when you are in trouble, you hire an attorney. You don't hire an attorney when you're not in trouble. Only when you find your back against the wall. There are some challenges ahead of you and you have no idea how to navigate the law. You don't know how to walk into a court by yourself. Then in that situation, you hire a wakil, you hire a power of attorney, or you hire an attorney. And what you do in that is, you don't pick up any random person and say, you will serve on my behalf, or you will stand on my behalf. But we'll only pick those people to serve who we trust the most. We know that I trust them, and I trust their intelligence. I trust their ability to argue. I trust their ability to win the case for me. And that is why we hire those particular people to go and stand and represent us in court. Likewise, when it comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He is known as Al-Wakil, what does that mean? It means that I have to learn how to put my trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no one who will be a better an arguer for me than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's no one who stands a chance except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I know that if I put my trust in Allah and I have full conviction in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I will come out on top in this situation. So that is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we find in the Quran, He says, وَمَن يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ. We find this in Surah Talaq. In Surah Talaq, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this. Why? Some ulama, they mention that one of the most difficult times that a person can go through in their life is when they go through a divorce. And we know that we see the situation today is that when you go through a divorce, it's a very bitter situation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us that there is an easy way to get out of these kind of matters. But today, we like to make these kind of things difficult for ourselves. And we see how, husband and wife, they're going at each other's necks and so forth. And that is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَن يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ. Meaning that in any challenging situation, if you put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will be sufficient for you. So this is what tawakkul means, is that you're putting your reliance in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, we have to also understand that there are many ways to understand tawakkul. One of the ways to understand tawakkul is that, number one, we put our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala despite our resources, despite our intelligence, despite our health, despite our capacities. Whatever is going on, often what happens is we will do anything that we want to do. I know that I have health. I know I have money. I know I have resources. So what we do is we will go and we'll try to take care of anything in life. But what happens when we fail? What happens when we fail? We try to use our resources even more. We try to exhaust all of our options. And when we fail even after that, what happens then? Then we make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what happens often. We don't often make dua to Allah primarily. We often ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His help after we have exhausted all options. This is against tawakkul. Tawakkul teaches us that no matter what, even if a situation is like a slam dunk kind of situation, meaning that you will be able to achieve this, whatever you want to, you still put your trust and reliance in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For example, the Quran gives us many different parallels. You have on one side, you have a person like Sulaiman alayhi salam. Sulaiman alayhi salam was given so much by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What did the jinn say? قال الذي عنده علم من الكتاب أنا آتيك به قبل أن يرتد إليك طرفك فلما رآه مستقرا عنده قال هذا من فضل ربي. When Sulaiman alayhi salam was told that I will bring the throne even before you blink your eye, and when he saw the throne was right in front of them, what did Sulaiman alayhi salam say at that time? He had all the abilities. He had the jinns with him and so forth, and they were serving him. At that time, he could have said, you know what, look at my capacity, look at my power, look at my abilities. But that's not what he did. What did he do? He put his trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He gave the credit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, قَالَ هَذَا مِنْ فَضْلِ رَبِّي. This is for the fadl of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This has nothing to do with me. This is not my power. This is the power of who? Of Allah Jalla wa ala. So this is why we find on one example, the example of Sulaiman alayhi salam. And then on the other side, you have the example of a tyrant, of a person who was a zalim. And everything that he had, he attributed the success to himself. And that was Qarun. When Qarun is being told that go and spend, Allah is giving you so much. Allah is giving you so much treasures. Go and use that. Help other people. What did he say? He says, قَالَ إِنَّمَا أُوتِيتُهُ عَلَىٰ عِلْمٍ عِنْدِي. You think this is from Allah? No, this is because of me. I'm smart. I'm intelligent. There's no one who can come close to me in terms of my intelligence and so forth. This is from my intelligence. So part of tawakkul is that no matter what abilities we have, we put our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm in the car. The road is clear to the masjid. There is hardly any traffic. I know I've done this day in and day out. I do this 2-3 times a day. Yet when we still get into the car, I put my trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The only one who will help me get to the masjid is who? Is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is what you call tawakkul. Another way to understand tawakkul is that first you put your effort forth, and then you put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A man came inside the masjid of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He brought a camel. He did not tie the camel, and then he says, we rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rasulullah told a sahabi of his own that go and inform this man that this is not what tawakkul is. Tawakkul is that first go and tie your camel, and then you put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Aqilha wa tawakkal ala Allah. This is the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Meaning that first we have to put our effort forth. We have to do the effort first, and then we put our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You cannot say that I'm not going to put my effort forth and then I'm going to expect something to come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's not what this means. This is why every single raka'ah in salat, what do we say? إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. First comes ibadah, then comes help. And this word, nasta'een, implies that first we do our own help. First we do what we need to do on our own end, and then the help will come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When the Quran says at the end of Surah Al-Ankabut, وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you want Allah to open the ways for you? Fine, no problem. Khay, la bas. First you have to do your part. وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا. First you have to strive for us. You have to do your part first. And then after that, you put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A person, a youngster who wants to get into college, he wants to get into a particular university. You get A's, you have good grades, you have letters of recommendation, you do everything that you need to have. Then you put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if it happens and he gets or she gets accepted in a particular university, it is from the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But trust means, tawakkul means that we have to do our own part first. Yaqub alayhi salam, when he told his children, when he was sending them to Egypt, he gave them proper advices. And he said, لا تدخلوا من باب واحد وَدُخُلُوا مِنْ أَبْوَابٍ مُتَفَرِّقَةٍ. He even gave these kind of advices. When you walk inside, when you come to the quarters and the courtyard and the palace of the king and so forth, at that time you don't enter through one door, you enter through multiple doors. And this is how you do this, and this is how you do that. This is Yaqub alayhi salam, a father teaching his son. Just like today, us fathers, we need to be teaching our children too, that this is how you do things, and then you put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Often what happens is, either we don't teach about tawakkul, or number two is, we teach our kids to depend only on their intellect and their connections and their abilities, but we have to teach our kids about tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another form of tawakkul is that no matter what challenge we're going through, we put our tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah is the one who put me in this challenge or in this situation, and it is only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who can get me out of this particular situation. This is another form of tawakkul, and this is why Ibn Qayyim rahmatullahi alayhi, first of all, when we talk about challenges, we talk about challenges extensively. We all, every single person sitting here in this gathering, we all are going through some kind of challenge in our life. Whether it's related to health, whether it's related to finances, whether it's related to family, whether it's related to society, there is some kind of challenge that's on our mind. And the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts us in those kind of situations is so that we can always go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes something from us, our mindset should not be that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is an oppressor. Rather, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who gives. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who gave. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who took away. And inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be the one who will replace also. This is why Ibn Qayyim rahmatullahi alayhi says, when Allah puts you through a test, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He takes something from you, it's not to put difficulty on you. It's because Allah wants to put something else in your hand. If you have something in your hand and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to give you more, you have to first put down what you have in your hand, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will put something else in your hand. So this is what happens often. So when these kind of situations do arise, first of all, we put our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And guess what? There might be a situation where that particular challenge that we're living through, we might have to live through that challenge for the rest of our life. But remember that every single challenge that we go through, there will be a reward for us in the akhirah. Most certainly, a believer believes in this. A believer has yaqeen in this, that no matter what challenges I'm going through, inshallah, I will be compensated for these challenges. There's no doubt in that at all. So that is why this is where we put our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And finally, I'll finish with a dua that we learn from the Quran. If you want to put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you want to rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's a very beautiful dua that we find at the end of Surah Tawbah or Surah Bara'ah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَإِن تَوَلَّوْا فَقُلْ حَسْبِيَ اللَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا هُ عَلَيْهِ تَوَكَّلْ. See, again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings the word tawakkul here. عَلَيْهِ تَوَكَّلْتُ وَهُوَ رَبُّ الْعَرْشِ الْعَظِيمِ. I rely on you, O Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you are the Lord of the Rabbul Arsh al-Azim. You are the Lord of the great Arsh. Why Arsh? It's because the ulama, they say, is that when you acknowledge the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the owner of this great arsh, and He has this much, then your challenges are very minute in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your challenges, your difficulties are very small and insignificant in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is why we also find a hadith of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that anyone who recites this 7 times in the morning, 7 times in the evening also, then it is mentioned that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will put aside the worries, inshallah. We have a lot of things that worry us, that we try to recite this day in, day out, inshallah. La hasbi Allahu, la ilaha illahu, alayhi tawakkaltu, wa huwa rabbul arshil azim. Also, keep in mind, what's the first word? Hasbi Allah. What's the first ayah I recited to you from Surah Talaq? وَمَن يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ. See, the same wordings are used all the time. Hasbi Allah. There's only one who is sufficient for me. There is no other connection, there is no other person, there is no other resource that will take care of my affairs. The only one who will take care of my affair is who? Is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And hence I put my trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So whenever you find yourself in any kind of difficulty, recite this dua of the Quran. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us from amongst those who have tawakkul. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَعَلَى اللَّهِ فَلْيَتَوَكَّلِ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. It is the believers who have tawakkul in Allah. وَعَلَى اللَّهِ فَلْيَتَوَكَّلِ الْمُتَوَكِّلُونَ. Those who have tawakkul, they constantly have tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us from amongst those. Ameen Rabbil Alameen. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
إن المسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات والقانتين والقانتات والصادقين والصادقات والصابرين والصابرات والخاشعين والخاشعات والمتصدقين والمتصدقات والصائمين والصائمات والحافظين فروجهم والحافظات والذاكرين الله كثيرا والذاكرات أعد الله لهم مغفرة وأجرا عظيما.